Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ties vs. Dies. Thank you for joining us again for another episode. We are glad to have you here. We are going to be walking you through a mandala fold, which is an 8-fold mandala centerpiece, as well as an hourglass spine with the broken hourglass spine, as we call it, as well as a half mandala sleeve for the arms. And that is going to be what we are going to be breaking down today. So first off, I'd like to go over how we start this off. We usually typically best practice would be to go ahead and implement your mirror fold. After you get your mirror fold, you are going to make sure the shirt is evened out, nice and even, nice and flat, as little creases and cracks as possible. If there is a few here and there, it's not that big a deal, but the rule of thumb is that, if you could make it to where there's none, go ahead and do so, because it will just make the folding and the binding of the shirt go a lot more smooth, and it'll be a lot less heartache. Here we are doing the 8-fold mandala, and so as a good starting point, you want to have your centerpiece of your mandala. You want that to be just above the bottom sleeve. So there's a top of your sleeve and the bottom of your sleeve, just above the bottom sleeve. That's where we want our center point to be for this particular design. This is going to be a larger full front blow up piece that is going to take up the full front of the shirt, and it's going to come to about maybe 2 inches or so from the neckline, and that is going to give us our centerpiece for this particular design. And right here we got the punch list, so you're going to need floss, sinew, washable markers, binder clips, and a ruler to get this job done the way we're doing it here. And as always, well, not as always, but as we like to use, we're using floss here. This is a high quality mint expandable floss that we're using here, so I recommend it. Not endorsed, but I definitely do recommend it. It's a solid one to use. It's very reliable, it's very strong, and it's very good at doing what we need it to do, which is to bind the shirt in a way that is going to not only keep the shirt wound up and keep the shirt where we need it and all the designs we implement onto it, but it's also going to give us the consistency for the shirt that is going to be like a sponge for when we get into the dye application process. And so right here we're getting into the hourglass spine, and for this I like to fold the shirt in half. So after you've implemented the mirror fold and you did your mandala, you'll be left with the remaining sections of the shirt. So you take the other opposite end and you fold that in half, right on half onto itself, and you line up the corners, you line up the end point, and then I like to bind it down with binder clips right here, as you see me doing. And then I like to draw out my line, that way I have a good target for what I'm going to be folding. And then we're going to implement a fan fold up the line that we drew with the washable markers, of course, and that is going to give us our starting point for our hourglass spine. And that's actually what it's going to be doing. So when you fold it over onto itself and then you come in from just maybe an inch or two off the center, then you go up to the shoulder horizontally, just maybe an inch or two off the center, then you go up to the shoulder horizontally, and that is going to give you a really consistent and really nice, symmetrical, and really well-rounded hourglass spine. And we're also going to be doing a DNA fold, or well, a DNA bind rather, on that hourglass spine. And so we're kind of combining two different styles here, which is what we like to do. So utilize those binder clips always, because they definitely come in handy. They definitely go a long way, and I always use them. I never leave home without them, and I recommend that you start to think about those things and start to implement those things that are just good practices to help your shirts become more consistent and more easy to work with. That way you can have a good time and you can have more fun. I feel that once I started to get into it, and once everybody starts to get into it, That's one of the turnoffs that kind of keeps people away from doing these more elaborate designs, is that the learning curve is a little bit difficult to get through. But I promise you, if you can get through it, if you can push through it, it'll definitely be worth it. And so right here, we're implementing that DNA bind. And the way you do that, again, is you do 45-degree angles and you wrap it around maybe 2 or 3 times, tie it tight, but not too tight. And that's going to give you a good consistency. So if 100% tight is, full force, I would say maybe go about 60% force on that bind, and that'll give you the consistency that you want for the dye absorption. And that's key. And so, yeah, you just implement those 45-degree angles, copy as you've seen me doing here, and you will get the same results that I get. That I can guarantee you. And also, I hope that you guys may have noticed I'm implementing 2 different camera angles here. This is going to be something that I'm going to start doing throughout my videos from here on out. I just got another camera, so I'm happy about that. So I'm going to be able to utilize the 2 camera angles, and so I hope you enjoy it. Leave it in the comments if you think that it looks good, if you think that it's effective, if it helps you create these designs, if it helps you get a better understanding, because that's really what would make me happy, is if at the end of this video you can have a better understanding and a better knowing of what it is you're creating and what it is that's actually going down in these designs and in these more, what we'd say, complex folds, of course. And so again, after we've utilized the floss, after we go over each section with the floss, I like to go back over the base of all these with sinew, to where each section is broken down into equal parts. So we have the 2 sleeves, the spine, and the front of the shirt. So that's, think about it like that. If you can imagine the shirt, break it down into those sections, and where those sections start, that's where we're going to go heavy on the sinew. Don't bind it too tight, but go heavy on the wraps. Maybe like 1 or 2 wraps, pull it tight, 1 or 2, pull it tight, and then 1 or 2, pull it tight. And you want it to be a thick line. That way it will leave a lot of resistance when we apply the dye, and that way it'll be a bold separation of where each main piece is starting and stopping, which would be the half mandala for the sleeves, the hourglass for the spine, and the eightfold mandala for the centerpiece. And that's for any folds that you're going to be doing as well. It's not just for these ones. If you're going to, I believe that having a good separation really makes the shirts pop, and it really makes it look unique, and it really makes it look bold and fun and interesting. And so give it a try. It'll work out good for you. And rubber bands are good too for that, but I think the sinew, going heavy on the sinew for those, is important. And so I finished the first shirt right here. That's what it is right there. There I'm zoomed in on the eightfold mandala, and you could also see the hourglass spine right there, and then the half mandala off to the side. And so I'm going to actually double up on this design, showing you that it is replicatable, and that way you can know that it can be done. And so right here I am going back over with a different shirt, and see, I just copied down the eightfold mandala. There it is again for a second time. That way you can really see the emphasis on it. And another thing, on each little nub on each of those folds, go ahead and shoot a line down the center of them, and that'll give you more detail lines, and it'll give you a more interesting looking mandala. And it'll also allow you to add the dye in a cool way that is interesting and unique finished product. And so that's what it's all about. And so here we go. I'm doing another of these hourglass spines. You see I've drawn that line out, and I am going up and using that as my target, and I'm folding, doing the fan fold up that line. And where that line is, that's where we're going to start our base of our wrapping. And so go over it with your floss just to get it secure on there, and then go back over it again once you've completed it with that sinew. And just try to copy this here, And with the sinew, really, you only need to go maybe 3 turns at most, but once or twice will be fine. The sinew works really well, it binds really well, and it's a really effective, really strong tool to use in your tie-dyeing setup. So as you can see right here, I've copied both shirts. So I have 2 different ones. I believe one's a size medium and one is a size 2 or 3X, and that's what it looks like. And then I utilized a scrunch fold to combine all those main pieces together, and that's going to give us a really nice smoky cloudy finish. And here we go, let's take a look at the finished product right here. And so here is the first one. This is the 3X shirt, and that's the front piece mandala, and you can see where the scrunch is, and you can see the different colors that we utilized throughout this dye project right here. This shirt came out really bold, the dye application went really well, and pretty much any color combinations you use, it's going to more or less look like this design. And so it's in this particular shirt, a lot of it is in the tie. And so here's the second shirt right here that we have coming up. It's gonna any second now, there it goes. And so here's the spine of the second shirt of the size medium shirt, and notice how the hourglass shape is really defined, how it's really prominent, and notice the DNA sequencing that we also implemented with the binding technique. And notice the mandala, how it looks different in this one, and that's due in the dyes. So the dye application and the tie application is what really breaks down your end result. But yeah, so that's going to be all for today. I hope that you all learned something. We hope that you had a good time. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience. We appreciate your support. So please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave me any comments if you have any questions or concerns, and I will get back to you in a timely manner. But yeah, again, thank you for your time, and we hope that you enjoyed the show. So tie-dye the world, and don't be afraid to get out there and try your best. All right, well, we love you, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.